Today, I wanted to tell you the story of how I got started as a wildlife artist, and more importantly, why I've stuck with it. If you've ever questioned what to paint, or you're worried that your passion might not sell, this one's for you. I don't remember a time when I wasn't fascinated by animals. From a super young age, I was just always obsessed. And I was an artistic child, even again from a very young age. So I'm sure you can imagine what my sketchbooks looked like, filled with all sorts of creatures of all shapes and sizes. Growing up, my parents had this set of coffee books by the artist Robert Bateman. And if you've ever seen his work, you kind of know he's like the pinnacle of realistic wildlife when it comes to artwork. And as I'm sure it's no shock, I was obsessed. Those books were my prized possessions. They were dog eared. They were all dirty because I was constantly flipping through them with my little paint and pencil covered fingers. But it was such a massive source of inspiration for me growing up. And I was fortunate enough to grow up in the countryside where animals and nature were just part of my day to day life. But as I got older, I still continued to create artwork, but I assumed I would be taking the traditional path of going to get an education, going to university, going to do something else, and art would just be a fun little hobby. And I did actually do all of that. I did go to university. I did pursue a different path. I did get a degree and I did keep creating artwork on the side. And when I started to work in that field, I was miserable. So, as a solace, I kept turning back to artwork. At this point, being a broke university student, I was still creating artwork. So, to pay the bills, I would take on some commissions and do some stuff, just trying to get some money flowing in. And I thought that as long as I was painting what I thought people wanted to see and would pay for, it would pay the bills and I would be happy because I was creating art and it was paying the bills. So I would try different things: landscapes, florals, doing commissions, doing fan art, doing trendy content. Well, like any good story arc, there's always that detour phase, the troublesome part of the story that adds drama and heartache, and this was mine. As a result of me just trying to do artwork that would pay the bills and create art of the things that I thought people would respond best to rather than what I wanted to create, I experienced hardcore burnout. And that looked like a complete and total lack of motivation. And anytime I looked at the artwork I created, I was kind of repelled by it. It didn't feel like me. It didn't feel like soul. It didn't feel good and healthy and happy. In fact, it kind of made me not want to do artwork at all. I would take on commissions that I felt really gross about going into it, and then I was shocked when I hated every minute of the process. I even painted a race car at one point. Not sure what I was thinking, but unsurprisingly, it was awful and I hated every moment of it. I thought painting what other people wanted to see was gonna be what brought me success, but it didn't. In fact, it just made me feel super disconnected from my own artwork. And as a result, I was kind of starting to hate it. This point in my art journey was a huge wake up call for me. I found myself not wanting to create at all because I was stuck in the cycle of trying to just please other people rather than painting what brought me passion. That thing that I recognized when I was a little kid that I loved: creating animal art and just creating things I thought were beautiful that would cherish and celebrate the things that inspired me: nature, animals, wildlife, pets. So that wake up call was an amazing gift for me because I took a break from painting for other people and I started only painting things that made me happy. Playing around with different animals, painting pets, having fun with it, doing it in styles that I really enjoyed. And it's funny how much better your art gets when you actually care about what you're painting. Rather than being miserable with every new piece that I created and ultimately feeling really stuck with where I was in my level of progress, I started to take really big leaps forward. And as a result, I actually had a lot of people pursuing me for my artwork. I had people buying my originals. I had people commissioning me for artwork that was based on the pieces that I created from my heart and soul that made me happy, rather than me trying to bend to what I thought other people would like, even if it meant nothing to me. So, the reason why I want to share this with you is because it came with such a profound lesson for me that maybe if there's just a chance that it might help you, I figured it's worth talking about it. And ultimately, that's why painting what you love really, really matters. And there's a couple different psychological aspects to this too. From a practical sense, you're just going to stick with your art longer, put in more effort, and you're going to improve so much faster as a result if you actually like what you're doing. And if you like what you're creating, you are going to have that positive feedback of seeing something that you really like. I love seeing animals. So even just seeing the artwork that I was creating featuring animals was enough of an incentive for me to keep moving forward and stick with it. There's also the emotional side of things. It brings you joy and meaning, and it makes the art experience really special. And honestly, that's something I wouldn't trade for the world. That is something that AI is never going to be able to replicate, is that joy that it brings you during that creation process. Another really cool aspect that you don't really get to see until you actually start to see and experience it, but that's the energetic balance of it all. People can actually tell when you care about what you're creating. And that is going to create a resonance that people are attracted to. You're going to attract people that like the same things as you, that feel passionate about those same things, and they are going to connect with your artwork on a whole other level. So, if you've been second guessing what you really want to paint, this is your sign to just go for it. Even if you don't think that there is some niche for you or that only you are going to like this one thing, I dare you to try anyways. Because if you pour your heart and soul into creating artwork that you're actually happy with, creating art of things that you love, you will find your people, especially if you are not scared to speak openly and share openly about those things that you're passionate about. You are going to have like minded people flocking to you. And you're going to notice a huge change in your entire perspective when it comes to your art. Your passion matters, and your art is going to be so much better when you actually honor that. So I'm curious, what are the sorts of things that you love painting? I would love it if you could leave me a comment to share. I know I tend to attract a lot of artists that love painting wildlife and animals as well. But if there's one thing that I've learned through my art journey is that even within that overarching sort of topic of wildlife and animals, there's still certain things that I love painting even more. So for instance, owls, like you can see in this painting here. This particular piece was a donation that I made to one of our local wildlife rehabilitations. And it felt really special that I was able to actually contribute to this. And the proceeds from it were going to go and actually help local wildlife. So leave me a comment of the kinds of things that you really love creating. And also, if you've experienced a similar thing to me where you kind of deviated from your path and tried painting a bunch of stuff just to see and just to try to make other people happy and how that went for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.